create a convention that we felt like was truly built from the ground up to be very inclusive of everyone, like make everyone feel like they really belong in the world of fandom, because they do. Everybody deserves a seat at the table and deserves to feel comfortable and safe attending events, and not to be shut out of like networking opportunities and fun stuff to do. So that was the original impetus, and it's been so much fun that we keep doing it, just because it's the number of awesome people that we met along the way, and just how much everyone, including us, looks forward to that weekend in October every year. It's not that big a stretch to say that sometimes people do go and then come out a little bit changed on the other side of it, at least in terms of their new friends and their new thoughts on things, and like rejuvenated inspiration.
I think the conversations is what Jesse means. When you come out of it and you've had all of these amazing conversations that you don't necessarily get to have in everyday life, people who are smart and funny and usually quite goofy, and it's becoming a family.
Yes, we're very excited for the brand new space at the Multiverse Convention. But we're also equally excited to see some familiar faces, two of which, indie author Bob Magoo and indie author Jessica Nettles, will be joining me to talk about that and more tonight. We also will be getting in shape with the Chaotic Good Fitness folks and getting you ready to vent with the Author's Alley. That's all in store tonight on the Spotlight Series, the Multiverse Convention, with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Multiverse Convention Spotlight. I am your host, Joe Compton. And look, I got Bob Magoo with me, so,
hey.
I'm right with the world.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Magoo. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. It's, it's a very Monday, sort of Monday, but I'm here on GoIndie now, so it's getting better.
I appreciate that. Thank you for joining us. I really, it's awesome to see you and have you here. And tell everybody a little bit about yourself, if you don't mind.
Sure. I am Bob Magoo. I'm best known as the author of the Jubal County Saga, which is a series about a redneck wizard with a crippling meth addiction. But I also do podcasting and indie tabletop RPG design, which the next guest ran a session of mine. If you haven't seen it, you need to go back a few videos on this channel and go watch them play. There's a Witch at the Edge of the Woods. It was a lot of fun to watch. I didn't play. Gotta have some separation, but it was, yeah. So that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. That's awesome. We've got a lot of people here too. So you're bringing the crowd, Bob. So you got Vanessa here, yourself in the fourth wall, and then A.F. Stewart, Tina Riffy's here, and then Jessica is our follow-up guest, and she'll be here, and she's hanging out in the chat with us. Yeah, I would have loved it too. I messed that whole thing up. That was my fault, everybody. It's not Bob's fault or anybody else's fault. It's totally my fault. I should have had Bob join us.
No. I absolutely would have refused. Like, no, I could not. I could have maybe have run it, but I definitely couldn't have played in it. Like that, it'd be weird.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like
it's a little meta, right? It's a little too meta. Yeah,
yeah. And then also, this was play testing.
Yeah.
So I could kind of watch and just make bad puns in the comments and live my best life. So
Jessica says it was a great game, and you did a great job, Jessica.
Yeah, no, she did an amazing job running it. So,
it's interesting because Author Alley is just opening up, and which we'll talk about a little bit later here tonight on Multiverse on this show. But you're one of the few people I know that's been there, quote, almost the entirety of the convention run. And so, what is it about the Multiverse Author Alley that you enjoy that you don't get anywhere else?
So I have. I've been going since before I was a vendor. So Author's Alley is still a little new to me there. But one thing that they do that I really like is it's on the main drag. A lot of times authors' alleys get kind of tucked away down, they're over there, there's a panel room over there, you'll probably see them if you go to panels in that room. But Multiverse kind of puts them, I mean, you register, or I don't know how it's going to be at the new hotel, but how it has been is you register and you take 2 more steps and you're in Author's Alley. Like if you want to go to any panel rooms, you're walking through Author's Alley. So
the only difference this year that I see, having been there, is that they have a desk for the registration this year, which is fantastic. And then literally right across from there is the big hallway, right? So that's the big hall. That's where the gather is probably going to take place. I'm speaking out of turn here. Vanessa will probably enlighten me a little bit more, but that's my impression, right? And then the hallway just goes for miles and miles, and then there's all kinds of different hallways as well. It's not just one hallway this year, so that's kind of interesting as well.
Yeah.
But I think the visibility factor for the folks that get down that first hallway is going to be very, very interesting. I think it's going to be more accessible for everybody this year. I think which is interesting, because the interesting thing about the previous hotel, was there's little nooks and little crooks and different spots. It's in the one space, but it kind of does this weird this weird queue thing, right? So it was kind of odd in that respect. So
yeah, no, I'm excited. The best thing about it is it's a closer drive for yours truly.
So yeah, Vanessa corrected me, so that's great. I love that. So that first ballroom is the vendor's hall, but yeah, that's awesome. And you don't do you skip the airport traffic, or do you still have to go through the airport traffic?
Get to skip all that. It's probably farther away for 90% of the people, but it's closer for me. So
Vanessa was ahead of it. She goes, you don't have to go through that.
Exactly. Oh, I'm so excited. And actually, the exit that it's at, I've stopped at dozens of times over the years, because it's I would go to Atlanta for a concert, and then concert would wrap up. We'd be heading home. We'd want Waffle House, as you do. And we would always stop in Peach Tree City, that exit, because it was the first exit where it was still kind of Atlanta, but it was far enough out that the Waffle House wasn't going to be, absolutely slammed at the bizarre hours we would be passing through. So,
all right, you and I have a tradition at Multiverse, and pretty much every con we go to, which we'll talk about here in a second. But I think we should start a new tradition, Bob. I think you and I need to get into a golf cart and head over to the Waffle House and have Waffle House.
Yes.
When we're up at 3 a.m.
Yeah, the only place I've ever been kicked out of was a Waffle House. So
what? How do you get kicked out of a Waffle House?
Okay, hear me out. There are a number of times I should have been kicked out of a Waffle House for just being way too drunk. College. I went to college in a small town that did not have 2 of anything, but it had 2 Waffle Houses. But it's a college town, and there was nothing to do at night, and so we just get real drunk and go get hash browns. And there were a number of times that I should have been kicked out, but this particular night, it was New Year's Eve. We'd gone to a New Year's Eve bash. It was boring. It was awful. Me and my best friend, we were like, you know what? Screw this. We're going to Waffle House, because a bunch of our friends worked there. Like, one of our best friends was the third shift cook. We were friends with several of the waitresses. Like, all my early D&D buddies worked at the Waffle House. And so we showed up at 11 o'clock, got our food, and the manager came up as soon as we got done eating. So probably around 11:25 or so, she said, y'all have to leave. And we're like, well, what? We literally just got done eating. She's like, no. You've been here for 3 hours. You have got to go. I was like, whoa. And I remember her name to this day, Sue. It's like, Sue, whoa. We've literally only been here 25 minutes. She said, I'm going to go call the cops. It's like, okay, we'll leave. So,
wow.
So yeah, she'd had enough of our shit, and I guess from previous nights, it had built up, and we had just hit critical mass. So, yeah, kicked out of a Waffle House, badge of honor.
Yeah. So the tradition I was alluding to that Bob and I and a few others have partaken in is I got kind of known for bringing beers onto because at the previous hotel the bar closes way too early for any human being, but it closed really early. So the next year I prepared and I brought down some beers, and it happened to be in a sack, and it happened to be Guinness, and Bob coined it the sack of Guinness. So
yeah, and now we share a sack of Guinness every place that we're at that has Guinness. If not, it's normally like Stella. So, but most places have Guinness. So
yeah. To be fair, this is very true. It was not great, but to be fair, the bartenders were not the bad part of that aspect of it. It's just the idea that it closed so goddamn early.
Yeah, because the thing about Multiverse, the thing that got me so hooked on it is, in my opinion, the best networking convention.
Nice.
A lot of folks are socially awkward, and the idea of socializing with a bunch of strangers is not greatly appealing sometimes without a couple beers in them. So I need some social lubricant for the heavy networking, and so the bar closing so early puts a real damper on BarCon. Yeah. So I'm excited for the new digs,
especially when they the first year I was there, they allowed you to stay in there even though they were closing. But the next time they were like very on it. They were like, no, you got to go, you got to clear out. So
yeah.
And Vanessa's saying that the first Multiverse hotel wasn't even open on Saturday. That's a tragedy.
That's no way to live.
And she says they didn't even know until the hotel neglected it.
I'll be curious to know if this hotel has Coke, because your boy is not a Pepsi guy. It's all Coke all the time, and none of the hotels in Atlanta, pretty much none of the hotels in Atlanta have Coke in them. Apparently, they got
it's a Hilton though, so I don't think you're going to win that argument. So yeah. I think Hilton's connected to Pepsi. I think, if I'm not mistaken. I think IHG is connected to Pepsi, if I'm not mistaken. But
man, it hurts. It hurts me deep. But this means I'll have to pack some Diet
she'll bring you some though, Bob. I mean,
there we go. I bought a cooler attachment. Yeah, awesome. I bought a cooler attachment. You can kind of see it over my shoulder here. It's this white thing here. That is a cooler attachment for my book transport system. It's a rolling toolbox that I use to haul books, and I bought. Yeah,
I was very admiring it at Jordan Con, but
yeah, I'm extra as hell. So so I'm excited about that. I have not used it yet for its function, but Multiverse. No, I'll use it one time before Multiverse, but I won't use it at Dragon. I won't need to there, but I'll probably have it at Multiverse. So y'all come by Author's Alley and be like, oh, Bob, show me your really cool toolbox. I'll be like, whoa, ladies, calm down. It's right there. So,
well, I really want to ask you what your favorite panel at Multiverse has been. What have you enjoyed? What panel have you enjoyed the most? Because you're a panel guy. You do a shit ton of panels. So
I do. But it's hands down. It's story time. After dark, adult story time, hands down my favorite. I as an author, book readings are real boring. They're boring to do. They're boring to sit through. They're just boring. Unless you're like, you know what? I'm not Stephen King. Folks aren't lining around the block to be like, oh, Bob, please read us an excerpt. So Bedtime Stories takes the idea of a reading and cranked it to 11 and makes it hilarious and fun. So yes, Bedtime Stories, yes. I don't know. To me, it's the most fun I've ever had reading a scene from my book. And I imagine that's probably true for every author that's participated in that. Dear God, it is nonstop laughter. So
Funny story is that's how Bob endeared himself to me. That's how I met Bob. Is he was he kept going up on stage, and I asked Vanessa, who is this guy that keeps going up on stage? And she told me your name, and I go, I've heard of Bob Magoo, and then there you are, and then we met right shortly thereafter.
That was the first multiverse that I paneled at, and Vanessa had actually asked, "Hey, do you want to do it?" And I was like, "No, I think I'll just go watch. I don't understand what's going on here," and was filled with regret the whole time. Like, man, I absolutely should have done this. So I said to myself, like, mental note, next year, don't care who I have to like leap over to get in line on that one, but my pudgy self will go diving through some lines to sign up for that if I have to. So I got to do it last year. Cross my fingers I get to do it this year because it's a ton of fun. So
one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things I've seen you do is the Create the RPG Game panel, and you guys, which you then repeated at Jordan Con with a different game. Obviously, you created a different game. And same crew though. It was essentially the exact same crew that did it. How much was that for cathartic for you? How much did you enjoy that aspect of the con for you? Was that something interesting to you?
Yeah, no, that was actually so. I'll say Multiverse has been the first convention that I felt like respected me as a game designer.
Nice.
I did a couple panels at Dragon Con. I think those are my first that I had ever done that were about anything RPG related. But they felt as like almost like an afterthought, shall we say? And
we needed somebody, so we're just going to throw Bob Magoo on that panel.
Yes, it was great. I did enjoy it, but I was not there as a designer. I was there as a guy who knew about games. So Multiverse was the first convention that like recognized, oh, hey, you actually do some game design. Cool. Let's do this. And that let's build an RPG. That is the story time of RPG design almost. Like, I don't know. It's not as nonstop hilarious. I do think that it does frequently get pretty silly and funny, but it is just so collaborative with the crowd. And it's totally like free flowing, and a lot of panels you can't really do that. Like, you know, you got to have structure to them. But that panel, it really is just like, okay, hey, it's almost like improv. It's like RPG improv. Like, hey,
it really is.
Give us a couple suggestions from the crowd. All right, cool. Let's make a game. And so Sean is really doing some cool stuff there with the play track. And so that was I really do love that. And if RPG game design isn't all in your wheelhouse, I'm told that we're doing it again. So come on out. We'll probably have I hope we have the exact same crew. I just hope that from now until the end of time, it's just the same group of us. Wherever we go, we just put this panel together and do it again. Because it's a ton of fun. It's a good mix of different kind of design aesthetics, I guess, all blended together, and it's so much fun. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I was there. It was really cool. It was really interactive. It was a very interesting experience. It was funny because a lady brought in her children at the beginning of it, and they made one suggestion, and then all of a sudden they weren't there anymore. It was
they suggested basically the plot of our game, and then immediately left.
Which was very funny.
Yeah, but that was a ton of fun.
The boss is breaking some news tonight. She says, "Watch your email. The guest survey is going out tonight." That's awesome. And
that was also the first. It's the first con to let me do a live play, like, and so now I've done it at other places now, but like at Jordan Con, I was on the charity RPG, but you know, I did a live play of. No, I didn't. No, I guess was that a Multiverse? Time is a flat circle. I don't know. No, yes. Oh crap. I don't know. My memory is getting really bad, but I think I did a live play at Multiverse, and it may have been my first time, maybe, but it was a lot of fun wherever I did it.
Fair enough.
Well, I've done a lot of panels.
Yeah. So let's talk about you a bit, because you know, there's two things that I think are really you're really into right at this moment, and that first off, the audiobook. Let's talk about your experience with audiobooks and creating the very first Howard Marsh audiobook from the first book. Talk a little bit about that process for you and what that meant to you, and how did you enjoy the process?
Yeah. So I'd always intended to have audiobooks, but that was always going to be a much later project for me.
Mm-hmm.
And then starting around the time book 3 came out, as I started getting a little bit more well known, I just had more and more people asking me like, hey, telling me, he's like, hey, I'm dyslexic. I don't read books. I listen to books, which is still reading books, but you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or they're like, hey, you know, I don't have time to read. I just listen in the car. Whatever the reasoning, a lot of folks like audiobooks. And so enough people had asked for it that I was like, okay, I need to move this up the to-do list. And I asked John Hartness. I was like, hey, do you have a recommendation? Because, you know, he writes Bubba the Monster Hunter series. I figured whoever did his books, he might recommend them. And he connected me with John Solo, and reached out to John, was like, hey, are you open to doing a royalty share? Because that was my thing. I had the money to like pay for maybe 1 or 2 audiobooks to get made, but not 6. Mm-hmm. So I was like, I talked to him. I was like, hey, would you be willing to do royalty share, which means I don't pay anything up front, and me and him split the money 50-50. And he loved the project. He's like, yes. And he acknowledges like it's probably not going to make really any money until we get at least 3 out and probably 6 out. So he's committed. He's in it for the long haul, which is good because the first book, it's not exactly flying off the audio shelves. But we knew that going into it. It's a shorter book. People don't like to use their credits on shorter books. When we get 3 of them out, we'll bundle them. And the prevailing wisdom is that's when folks will be like, oh, okay. And, you know, we'll see. I'm very unlucky, so it could go either way. But no, it was a great experience. I actually, the only thing I had to correct him on was how to pronounce my name. That's the only thing he got wrong. was my last name, which fair. No one gets it right. And so, but he knocked it out of the park. Like, he was exactly what I was looking for. Did not have to go in and say, hey man, could you tone it down a little bit? Because that was my worry. I didn't want a caricature, you know, I didn't want a cliche. Sure. I wanted to sound like a actual real Southerner. And despite the fact that I believe he lives in Ohio, he nailed it. So it's been out about 2 months now, I guess. Yeah, about 2 months. And feels good. Recording on book 2, I think, starts next month.
Oh, nice.
And it doesn't take him long. Once he gets going, within a month, it'll probably be out in the world. So
it is a short book, but it is one of my top 20 favorite books of all time. I just think it is just so fucking amazing. It's just such a great book. It is so, you know, there's origin stories, and then there are Howard Marsh origin stories. And that's how I describe everything to people when I talk about origin stories, because the investment you make into the first book of this series pays off tenfold down number 5, 6 down the rabbit hole. but also it is the most unique and weird thing about it, about this series, which is that Howard Marsh is the most lovable, unlucky bastard you've ever met in your entire life, and he does it all to himself. He has nobody to. There's not a blame to go. I mean, there's some witchery and some family things that he has to deal with, but for the most part, because he can't shut up or he just doesn't know how to control things, he just loses faith very easily, and it spirals
Yeah.
for him.
I appreciate that. He is absolutely a disaster of his own creation, which, you know, same. So
I think in a lot of ways, it's really telling about us as people too. I think we all have that, you know, that little bit of tinge, and I think that's what makes him so vulnerable to be loved, right? Is because people do ultimately see themselves in Howard Marsh as much as you can see yourself in a meth addicted redneck wizard, right?
Right,
So
right.
you know,
Surprisingly relatable.
right?
Yeah. So yeah, no, again, I appreciate the kind words. So
bless his heart. Yes, absolutely.
bless his heart. He's the epitome of bless his heart.
Yeah, but no, and what I also love is that it really clues us into how you write, and it's very you have a unique and beautiful cadence that I think if for people who have never read Howard Marsh, and if you haven't, you all need to go and do that. But also, when you get to Southern Sawdad, which is a different tone for Bob, a different way Bob presents stories, you still feel like Bob. You feel like you. I'm talking like you're not even in the room. It feels like your cadence never lost its step, right? And was that something that you discovered early on? Was your own voice, or was that something you just played with the Howard Marsh series and it clicked? How do you feel about where you are as an author right now, and do you feel like you have your voice?
I do feel like I have my voice, but I'll say I was talking with Ben Meeks the other day, and Ben Meeks is one of the most impressive people I know. Like, the man can do anything. It's sickening. And but I told him that I was like, man, like, I'm just so impressed by you, by all the things that you're capable of doing. It's like, and he said, look, I'm just too dumb to know that I can't do these things, so I just go out and do them, and you know, I just keep at it till it clicks. And that's kind of me with writing. I come out of my undergraduate in anthropology, and we talk heavily about like the universality of stories, how stories all play it the same way. And I've just kind of taken that to heart. It's like, if I just tell the story, it's going to work out. Our brains are all kind of wired similarly. If I just throw some words on paper, a story will appear eventually. And then I don't know. I just when I read what I write, it reads different. It reads differently. Like, all the pauses are in different places. My editors hate me. They're like, you've never put a comma in the right place. It's like, well, yeah, because I'm putting them where in my head I hear them. So that's how I write. And then someone comes along and fixes the commas. And so then that's how the Bob voice is born. It is he writes it weird in his head, and it hits paper, and someone fixes it, all the commas, and it turns out all right. But I've never really done much in the way of like actively, consciously sitting down to like work on like craft. I guess you could say. Like, there've been a few things like working on Show Don't Tell, but for the most part, the voice is just my voice, I guess. Nice. So,
and that's a key. I think because a lot of authors struggle with this aspect of their creating is finding their voice and feeling like they don't have their voice, right? And even because ultimately what we're creating is make believe, and it's not, you know, whether you ground it in reality, whether you base it on something you know, or base it on, you know, real life events or something you experience, it's still, you're making up a story to enhance that aspect of what you're telling, right? So, and that's a tough thing to do for a lot of people, So
Yeah. I would just, if you're one of those people out there, trust your gut.
Yeah,
It's kind of my advice. Like, I don't think you can force a voice.
Yeah.
I think if you try and force it, the odds are it's going to come off as like a caricature.
Yeah,
It's not going to feel genuine. So
yeah, nice.
Just trust in your ability.
So, I mean, creating RPGs is a lot different in a different muscle in terms of how you write. It's a lot more technical in a lot of respects because you have the Bob mechanic for anybody who doesn't know. And creating the Bob mechanic has rules and ridges to it that you wouldn't have as a author. Is that true? Do you find like you're using a different part of your mind when you're creating the RPG aspect of things?
Yeah, it does. And these days, it's easier for me to slip into RPG design brain than author brain. I don't like it. The words flow easier there. I don't know. It's definitely not because I'm at another level of mastery. Because let's be real, my games are real simple. But I don't know. It does definitely pluck at different sections of the brain, and I honestly, I'm lazy, and it's easier to make a game than write a book. And if I would left to my own devices, I would probably make a lot more games in place of writing books, just because they're easier and I'm lazy, and they're actively more fun to write. Yeah. Writing to me isn't like a ton of fun. Like I don't hate it. Like I know some folks absolutely hate it. I hate editing. Writing is fine. But game design is like actively fun to do. And maybe that's why it goes easier, just because I'm having more fun doing it. But
the zines,
I love them both.
Yeah, the zines you're creating seem to be a little bit more telling of your mechanics than your one-pagers are, though. So was there a moment that shifted for you between doing one-pagers and doing the zines that you had to kind of sit down and kind of create the mechanic first?
So with the 3 zines that I have out now, there's a Witch at the Edge of the Woods is, I would say, by far the most mechanically intensive.
Yeah.
It is the only real game of the 3. And the other 2, one's a solo RPG, which is just a fancy way of saying writing prompts.
Yeah.
And the other one is a lore source book. It was originally going to be a Morkborg hack, but I didn't feel like going through the trouble of licensing it, which would not have cost money. I'm just lazy. And so it's just a source book for kind of folks who like that OSR style game. So the Bob system has it had to be small enough that it could fit on one page, right? With all the other stuff that a game needs. So now that I have a little bit more room in these zines, the Bob system is going to be getting fleshed out a bit more.
Nice.
But it's still going to be pretty simple. The vision, such as it is the Bob system will fit on one page, and that's just the rules. And then if it's a one-page game, that's just, here's all the stuff specific to this game. You just use this rule sheet. But then with these, if it gets the full like 20-page zine treatment, those will be the ones that get like, specific mechanics, things like that. And the next one is actually going to be sci-fi horror setting and game.
Nice.
So,
that's awesome.
Sci-fi capitalist hellscape, go!
Awesome. Everybody's saying Commons Under the Menace. listen to what you have to hear in your head, and then your voice comes out in your writing, whether you want it to or not. And that's how it works for Jessica. And I hate editing my own stuff. Endings kind of feel like I'm in the Olympics trying to stick to gymnastics routine.
Endings are the worst.
And then Jessica says she knows it's coming, but I have no idea. I'm going to get tense with the judges, and there's always that Russian judge that's frowning in the corner table.
That Russian judge is called Goodreads.
Well, Bob, as evidence, I could talk to you all day, and I do. But we need to bring Jessica on, and we need to do other things. But thank you so much for taking the opportunity to come in here and talk to me. Yeah, this is my sentiment exactly. But I really appreciate it. So tell everybody where they can find all your wonderful stuff, including the audiobook and the zine stuff.
Yeah. Quick and easy, go to talesbybob.com. We'll take you to everything. If you're really just in it for the RPG content, look for beardedbardinkworks.com. And you can now actually order print copies of my zine, print on demand. What? It's wild. It's a wild west out here, guys. We're innovating every day. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
no, this is awesome as always. I love coming on this channel. It's my favorite place to come on. So,
thanks, Bob. It's nice to have
so
you
glad
as
to be
always. Yeah, you're welcome back anytime. You know that, my friend. And thank you so much for joining us today on Spotlight the Multiverse. And we're gonna get in a little bit of we're gonna get some shape here with Chaotic Good Fitness, and then we'll bring on Jessica Nettles, everybody. So hang tight. Here we go. Regardless what's out there for you, your body is your temple. Isn't it time for you to take control of your own fitness and well-being? To tell your story. In Dungeons & Dragons, Chaotic Good is a character alignment that reflects one whose heart is pure, but who does not take the law at face value. They question authority and forge their own path based on their own value system and morals. They value freedom and individuality over social norms and rules. CG Fitness views fitness and health in the same way. We are client-centered, body-positive. We focus on the individual client's needs and goals without trying to fit them into the standards set up by the fitness industry. Each client has a unique background, goal, and body that deserves to be valued and considered when working together. We don't expect all of our clients to look, act, and feel or need the same thing. Some clients want weight loss programs. Some join us for the pain management and reduction. Others have worked with us for pre-surgical body change needs. No matter why you come to us, we will find a way to help you level up. There is no one-size-fits-all magical answer to fitness and health goals, and there is no one-size-fits-all body shape. There's no quick, easy route to take. Making health improvements is hard work, but we are here to guide you through the journey. CG Fitness is about making improvements at your pace for you. So now let's pull out your character sheet and roll for that initiative. So if you're interested in how Kira and her team can help you, you can go to chaoticgoodfitness.com/services. So choose your path to better health and good fitness and tell your own story at chaoticgoodfitness.com. Yes, Jessica says it perfectly. What an awesome sponsor, too. Yeah, absolutely. And look, everybody, Jessica Nettles is here. You're muted, my friend. There you go.
We're outside making noise, and I'm like,
so nice to have you here. Thank you for joining us. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
I am Jessica Nettles. I am the author of The Children of Menlo Park. I write historical fantasy and Southern Gothic horror, and you can find my books on Amazon. I am a Falstaff author, and I'm tickled pink to be here and to be going to Multiverse as a guest. Yay!
Yay! That's awesome. It's really cool. there's very few experiences like Multiverse, right?
It's true. It's very true. It's one of the warmest con experiences I probably have ever had. And it's one of my favorite cons.
Mm.
And it's right in my backyard. That's the best thing.
Yeah, that does make it nice for a lot of people. Is Peach Tree City closer to you, or is that a little bit further away?
It's probably about the same distance,
Mhm.
but the best part is I don't have to drive in Atlanta traffic. I don't have to get on the freeway. I can actually take back roads and
Nice.
drive through the country and go down to Peach Tree City. So I can drive through a few small towns and get there in about the same amount of time that I could to get on, because I could get onto the freeway and go down there.
Mhm.
Except those of you who know me know that I am freeway phobic, just a little bit. And we have some of the most terrifying freeways in the universe
I
here.
was gonna
So
say it's one of the worst. that I've been through.
so I'm like, folks are like, well, you could get on 285. I'm like, oh hell no. So there is a way to get to Peachtree City where I don't have to get on any freeways. So that's how I'm going to do it. And so it's about the same distance, but the drive's nicer.
Nice.
It is. Oh, thank you, Bob. I love you too. It's a beautiful drive, and I'm so excited about it. I'm looking forward to seeing what everything looks like.
There is something to be said for what Vanessa said and what you've mentioned about going through the country a little bit too. It's maybe 10 or 15 minutes further for her, but it's less stressful. I mean, that does kind of ramp up your con experience if you're panicked or running through something right away or stuck in something, as some people have been in the past.
Yeah.
Could ultimately be a very, very good thing to have that serenity right up front.
Oh yeah. And I pretty much embrace that as a whole. When I'm going to con, I will do anything in my power to make sure that I'm not stressed when I get there.
Yeah.
It's better for everybody involved, and also keeps me from doing things like developing a migraine, which will wreck the entire weekend. And we don't want that. So, yeah. And this is going to be a particularly good drive because it's just so peaceful. Lots of wooded areas. And I actually cross through. This is like one of my favorite things. If I take the right route, I'll actually cross through the intersection that begins the first scene of The Walking Dead.
Oh, cool.
It's great. I have a whole story about that. So when they were filming that first scene, I didn't realize that this was happening. My daughter and I drove down to the Renaissance Festival, which is down that direction. And we used that intersection for like years and years and years. And so we drove down and we saw the big truck that was on its side, and we thought they'd had a wreck. We didn't know. And so we're like, well, that's weird. So we went under fest. We came back and it was still on its side, like at the end of the day, like at 7:00 in the evening. It was still on its side. We're like, that's really weird. Didn't hear any news, nothing. And then, of course, Walking Dead comes out, and I watched the first episode, and I'm like, oh my God, that's what we saw. So I'm texting her going, oh my God, it's on The Walking Dead. She's like, what? Then we're both like freaking out. So now I drive through there, and now I call it the Walking Dead intersection.
That's awesome.
That's great.
I'm shocked that it must have been a big. I don't watch The Walking Dead, so I missed it, but it must have been a big truck, because typically on a big production like that, they wouldn't have left it in the middle of the road.
Yeah, it was a big gas truck. It was basically a big gasoline truck. It was like right next to a gas station. So, and the scene opens with the main character Rick walking up the road, and he eventually walks past the gas truck. So it was just really interesting. And so I love that intersection. It's still beautiful, and it still looks just about the same as it did, 10 years ago.
Hopefully sans the gas truck, but
sans the truck. And well, I mean, they could have left the gas truck and it would have been okay, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, by then it could have been monumented, right, or something like that. And everybody can drive by with a little plaque that says, "This is the truck from Walking Dead," or something.
Walking Dead, yeah.
of course, then traffic for that area would then increase, which I'm sure the people there would probably not enjoy. But
Probably not.
uh, you have an interesting perspective because the times I've seen you, you've worked John's table at Multiverse
Yes.
for the most part. You work in the Falstaff table, and which is the sponsor of the Author's Alley, which we'll get to
Right.
in a little bit. But talk a little bit about that experience and what that's done for you, and being able to see how this is all coming together from that perspective.
For me, I use it as training. Okay. Multiverse started before my book came out,
Mhm.
and I came to the table knowing very little. I had done retail and worked in a bookstore, and that's really different. That's
Yeah.
really different than hawking books by people or your own book, or working a table at a convention. And so I really had no idea what I was doing. But the first Multiverse, he came down and he's like, I need people to help me. And I'm like, this will get me a free ticket in. I'm going. And so, and then I realized I'm also getting a free education. This is good.
Mm,
And so I learned by watching him hawk,
mm,
because you and I both know John Hartness, nobody else sells like John Hartness does. This
nobody.
is the only man alive who can look at somebody and say, buy my shit.
Yeah.
And they will buy all of his shit. I can't do that.
And do it in a way that you feel like you're not buying anything. You know?
And so I'm like, this is the man to learn from. And so like the first year or so because I work Multiverse, and every time the table comes to town, if I can, I try to sit at the table. I say it this way: if the mothership is going to be in town, I don't have a table because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
And it's better to sit at the mothership. So you sit there and you watch him do it. And the first year, I didn't even say very much, because I'm like, I'm just going to watch and learn. And then he would leave. He got to the point where he'd leave me at the table. It's like, okay, so now I've got to say something. And so I just started kind of picking up his habits, which may or may not be good. I don't know. And began to realize that maybe I wasn't so bad at this, and got a little confident and a little bit like, okay, I'm never going to be by my shit level, but I am confident. And then the book came out, and it made me more confident. It's like, okay, so now I've got a book now, and people think it's pretty. Okay, I can bank on that. And now, I have a tag now about the book, Nikola Tesla and Mark Twain kick cosmic ass. Okay, that works. And then, I don't know, I just started bantering from there. And, I learned to watch how people act. I learned how to start conversation, how to add my personality to it. And I realized that I didn't have to be scared, which is a big deal for me. What you guys don't know is that I'm terrified of talking in front of people. You wouldn't know that, right? I am there's 12-year-old me is hiding in a corner somewhere inside of me, just absolutely curled up right now. She is so scared. But learning from him, along with being a teacher, I think that all really builds into the whole thing of being able to sit at that table and do the thing. But he really taught me a lot about not being afraid, and just do the sale and keep at it and don't give up. And if somebody walks away, don't be worried about it, because there's going to be somebody else. There's always going to be another person to come to the table, and that's okay.
One of the things I was real excited that you signed up for this show, because one of the things I want to talk about that is very prominent at Multiverse, and Bob alluded to it, it's one of the best networking cons there is. It may be the best, actually. But I got to sit with you quite a bit last year. We had several meals together, and we did a lot of talking. And the thing that I found very interesting is you're one of the most fascinating people to listen to brainstorm.
Oh
The
wow.
way the way your brain works, and when somebody comes up with an idea, you're instantly thinking about, well, what if we do this? What if we do this? We actually manifested a anthology with Mr. Bob Magoo, who
Yes.
hasn't acted on it yet, but down the road, I'm sure that'll happen. And we talked about it. We brought it to life, really, in that
Yes.
respect. And how much fun is that for you? Is that something that you really relish in? Is that something that Multiverse gives you that no other con can give you?
Yes. Um, I like brainstorming with my friends,
Mm,
and it's something that kind of, if I have a group of creative friends, that's going to happen. I
yeah.
don't really know why it happens, but that's how my brain works. If you come up with an idea, I want to almost always go, yes, and,
Hmm.
which is funny because I'm not always innately good at, say, improv,
Yeah.
but that's my form of improv. It's like you come up with an idea, I'm going to look at you and go, well, what if we do this? Because that's the game that I play in my head all the time.
Yeah.
If people want to know how they're like, how do you come up with your crazy ideas? What I do is I come up with a kernel of an idea, and then I go, what if? Well, what if, blah. So, so that's how I came up with that. Like, I have a story about that's a play on Frankenstein, but it started out as a story about me being 4 years old and afraid of the basement.
Yeah.
Oh wow, yes, the rogue waves. We still need to do that, man. So it started out with me being afraid of the basement when I was 4 years old. And then me being afraid of my grandfather's basement. And then what if my grandfather, who was incredibly intelligent, he was like he's genius level man. And he was German ancestry. I'm like, what if my grandfather was actually a mad scientist? And then it escalated to what if my grandfather helped my dad build my brother? And he was a Frankenstein and it just went from there. So
That's awesome.
I play what if. So if I have other people to play with, it's like Christmas time. So multiverse in a lot of ways is like Christmas time. And so going to lunch or breakfast and hanging out with you guys, that's like best possible scenario.
Hmm.
And especially when we have people like Bob that's thinking rogue waves, and I'm like, I can ride this.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's really cool because yeah, it's the best combination of people who do stuff and people who think stuff, right? And it's kind of
Right.
like, and then we're like that. We're the Reese's peanut butter cup of the two melts. The people who have the ideas are the peanut butter and the chocolate, and or the people who have the go are the chocolate people, but we put peanut butter inside of it now. So
Right. Right.
yeah, it's really cool. You know, um, Multiverse also, very, very, very famous for its paneling. Talk a little bit. What is your favorite panel? What have you experienced that has been one of your favorites?
I really enjoyed because I've only done panels for about a year. I did
Yeah,
some panels last year. I had a really good time. So they put me on I think they put me on one or two Star Trek panels, which I was real tickled about
yeah,
because anybody who's really close to me knows that I can talk about Star Trek for probably a million years, right? Um, and especially like I'm really into Strange New Worlds right now. Um, just totally. So I'm really into that. I actually did some improv last year. They have an improv panel where they give you items and you have to like pretend
alien
to know the
autopsy.
archaeology panel, the
Yeah,
alien archaeology. And that was fun, and I wouldn't mind doing it again. That was really fun. Um, a couple of times I looked at things and went, I have no idea. But I made a whole backstory for my character and talked about how, I mean, my ex-husbands I had about a million ex-husbands, and they all had all kinds of connections to these things. It was, I was very bitter. Um, it was a lot of fun, and we had several other folks in the panel who were just hilarious, and I love that kind of thing. That flow of creativity, and I love comedy. I like making people laugh. So that was a lot of fun, and I would definitely do that again.
Nice.
So yeah, I'm hoping to do more panels this year, and I'm hoping to have a little more variety. Sometimes I think people don't know what to do with me, but just ask, because I probably know a lot more than most people think I know. I don't know. Maybe I'm just saying that. I don't know.
No, I would agree. I think there's probably you're very unassuming in terms of talking to you is like a wealth of knowledge. It's very cool to talk to you.
Thank you.
I think the teacher thing comes out very, very well, and in a good way. I'm not talking about like one of those horrible teachers that we all remember, but like the really good teachers that we all remember that we can relate to. I think it comes out
Thank you.
in talking to you quite a bit, and yeah. Are you hoping to maybe do some more writing stuff now that you've kind of gotten a little bit more experience under that aspect of it in terms of the panels and stuff like that?
Oh yeah, I would love to do that. Because I mean, I enjoy talking about writing. I enjoy, talking about what I know about writing. And I could maybe teach things about character development, dialogue. Dialogue is like a favorite thing. Because a lot of people struggle with dialogue.
Sure.
And for me, I don't think it's that hard, but then, for me, it's natural because I hear it up here, but not everybody does. So there are ways to learn about that too. So, I mean, I'm open for anything, and Vanessa's over there probably taking notes and, writing things, this
Of course
person
yeah.
talks too much. She talks too much. Yeah. So I love you, Vanessa.
Yeah, I'm going to give you some more ammunition for the table this year too, because Children of Menlo Park was my gateway into the Falstaff universe. I hadn't read a Falstaff. You're the first Falstaff book I ever read, so and it was because the way you pitched it and the way you talked about it to me was so damn interesting and so unique. So talk a little bit about what the Children of Menlo Park is, and I know you're working on follow-ups for it. So talk a little bit about this experience and taking, characters that you are known and everything like that.
Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar yet, Children of Menlo Park is the first adventure of Kate Warren, Lady Pinkerton. She was a real lady, by the way. She is now a ghost, and she and her partner Shadow pursue paranormal sorts of mysteries. I guess the best way to pitch this, because I do this at the table all the time, it's Mark Twain and Nikola Tesla kicking some cosmic ass. So she and her partner team up with Mark Twain and Nikola Tesla. They discovered that I don't know how much to give away. They discover that Thomas Edison is up to some shenanigans.
Yes, that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
And then all hell breaks loose. And they discover magical children and go and fight something at Niagara Falls that's really nasty. And it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of history bending. It's historical fantasy. And it was a hell of a lot of fun to research and write. I am working on a second book. It is about 8 chapters in, mostly because I'm trying to finish my second novel called Kudzu Ridge, which is Southern Kaiju and totally different. I'm about 15,000 words away from being done.
Nice.
The second book in Kate and Shadow's adventures will take place in Savannah.
Ooh,
and
nice.
may or may not involve werewolves
Yes,
in the
nice.
swamp. There also may be some other weird cosmic nonsense. There are going to be some returning characters besides Kate and Shadow. There's also some historical nonsense going on up north that we're going to learn about. That's going to probably extend into a third book that involved some of the labor stuff that was going on during that time period, because there was a lot of labor stuff, and it may or may not involve Pinkerton himself, because I've done some research and there may be some fun stuff. There also may be some bad guys that are returning because I didn't quite finish their stories.
Cool. Nice.
Also, our favorite airship pilot will return, and it has returned. He's with us again, so nice. I'm real excited. I think we have a lot of chance to have some fun. The werewolves in Savannah are going to be especially fun to me. Don the Knife returns, and he's a part of this story. It's really kind of personal for me too, because Savannah is my dad's stomping grounds. So this is kind of a nod to some of my family and some of my roots. And for those of you who don't quite know or have read the book and don't quite get it, Don the Knife is built on my dad. It's based on my dad. My dad actually makes knives. So Don the Knife is my dad. So I've been visiting Savannah and Tybee a lot lately, and getting a feel for the city and looking at maps and thinking about things. So big things to come. I'm excited.
There's a real rich metaphysical history, especially in Savannah, but southern wise, there's just this interesting paranormal metaphysical aspect to a lot of history, and it comes from storytelling of generations and generations and generations. Is the abundant amounts of riches for you and that playground something that lends itself to your sensibilities as a writer?
I think so. I mean, I truly believe that being a part of this culture, you kind of walk, especially if you're raised in a spiritual culture, in the spiritual part of the culture, you end up walking this fine line between religion and the other stuff that goes on, because we believe in hauntings, and we believe in creatures in the woods and crap like that. So yeah, I mean, I think I'd have to be like kind of tone deaf if I didn't have that influence, which is why I write Southern Gothic horror. And I don't write, I mean, if you've read my stories, it's not really like slasher horror, or it's not gory necessarily. Well, there's the alligator guys, but it leans into something else. It's that something else thing.
Yeah,
I did that on purpose, Vanessa. Probably the only now you gotta decide, are they angel wings or are they like but yeah, I think by necessity, and I think Bob probably would agree with this, by necessity we tend to be influenced in that supernatural element. It's I think there's wings with a lot of options. I think that's true. And I think we have to be honest with ourselves as Southern authors and explore those spaces. And I don't know, I've always played in those spaces. As a child, I played in those spaces. So
It goes along the lines of finding your voice, though. Oftentimes authors will try and be a lot smarter than their audience or who they are, what they know, because they want to show their range, they want to show who they are, they want to show their abilities, right? So oftentimes when a young author is starting out, especially, they'll turn their back, or they'll whisk away from what they know to kind of show that they're capable of doing other things, right? But I think that's biting your nose to spite your face, right? Because
Right.
if you know something, that's what's going to endear you to readers. Ultimately, you're going
Right.
to build a following by what you know and how you present it, right?
Right.
So leaning into that, I think, is the only way to do that.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't know. I mean, when I was in undergrad and college, the professors really weren't into the whole lean into the genre, lean into the
Yeah,
supernatural stuff. They really wanted us to do literary writing.
yeah,
And I tried to do it so I could get a grade.
yeah.
But I'd sneak in the supernatural stuff anyway. It's like, just sneak it in anyway. Who cares? And I would end up making them happy anyway. So I'm like, and so when I was getting through with my master's in creative writing, they told us, okay, so you're going to do your capstone. Look at your body of work so far and see what's the strongest element in your body of work. So I looked at my body of work, and the thing that stepped out was, all of your stories are ghost stories. So I'm like, well, then I will just write ghost stories.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And at that point, that's when I realized I, I had to own up to the fact that I was indeed a horror writer. Maybe not an intense horror writer. Maybe I was a quiet horror writer. I didn't have the words for that.
Yeah.
But I was writing horror, and I was writing creepy stuff, and I was setting it here in the South, and that's what made me happy. And it didn't matter because I didn't want to write literary fiction anyway, because that's not what made me happy.
Yeah. No.
So, yeah. So I wrote a bunch of ghost stories. I passed and got my degree, and I went off and did what I wanted to do,
Yeah. Right on.
you know?
That's awesome. Well, I mean, if you haven't read Children of Menlo Park, y'all, you need to just go and do it, because it's an amazing book. It's so rich and so full of interesting. I just love the little plot twists. I love Kate as a character, obviously, and I love who the villain is, because I think that is so right on. And I won't spoil that for people who haven't read it yet, but I mean, it's pretty obvious once you start reading it who the villain is. But it's really, it's very interesting how you get to from point A to point B. But I just, yeah, I'm real excited for a second book, and real excited for anything that you're writing, Jessica, because I think
Thank
it's going
you.
to be awesome. And thank you so much for being here and joining me today for this. I really appreciate that. Tell everybody where they can get Children of Menlo Park and everything you're doing.
Okay, so you can find Children of Menlo Park on Amazon. You can come to Multiverse and get it.
Get it signed.
Get it signed, because I'll be there. You can also find my short stories. Let's see. I'm in an anthology called Lonely Hollows, which is a wonderful folk horror anthology. And you can find another one of my stories. I have to think about this now because the list keeps getting longer. Um,
You got
I'm
the
in
Cthulhu
another one
one, right?
called,
So,
pardon, and I've
yep.
got a new one. I'm gonna talk about that in a minute. I'm in another one called League of Monsters,
Nice.
where I get to write about the Gill Man. Yes, there's a story about the Gill Man, but basically it's the Universal monsters fight the Nazis. There's another one coming out called called Southern Fried Cthulhu. Yes, it's exactly the way it sounds.
It's awesome.
We have the Kickstarter is still going on. You can probably find a link to it somewhere on my Facebook page. If you are my Facebook friend, or James Palmer's Facebook friend, or several other people's Facebook friends. John Hartness is a part of this too, because we made it to the Hold My PBR level, which is we get above the Monster Hunter versus Cthulhu story. We're very excited about that. We're waiting for what I call the Town Fish Fry level, which is pay your rider level of $3,000. So we're still not even close to the end of the Kickstarter, but we're already trying to get to the second stretch goal. So if you haven't supported this Kickstarter, do it. I'm hoping to also get into another anthology that involves mushroom horror through Rachel Broom's Crone Girl Press, which I'm excited about. I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with that. I've been doing some research on mushrooms though. So wow, scary stuff.
Nice, awesome. Well, everybody, go check it out. And you know, we've been talking a lot about vending at Multiverse and Author's Alley, and Jessica's publisher, Falstaff Books, brings that to you each and every time they partner with Multiverse. And here's what they do there, and then I'll be back to wrap things up, everybody. You ready to show us your world through your pages? Well, Multiverse and Falstaff Books are once again partnering to open up and fill the convention hallways with the Author's Alley. That's right, the time is now to sign up. The space is limited, but it's open. The Author Alley table is 6 feet by 2 feet, and it includes a table in a pre-functioning area with 1 or 2 chairs and 1 complimentary 3-day badge. Authors are responsible for securing or packing up their own merchandise overnight when the table is unattended. There are a lot of things to consider when vending at Multiverse, and we implore you to please go to the site and read everything carefully before submitting. So if you'd like to vend, again, the applications will be open till September 15th, but spaces are very limited and they're going to go very fast at this new space. So please do not hesitate. Go to multiversecon.org/vendors and secure your spot today. Yes, do it. You know, gets you to the con, by the way. If you didn't hear, you get a 3-day badge with being a vendor at the con. So if you were not part of the guest process, this is another avenue to get into Multiverse. And I don't know why you wouldn't take it. And I would literally, right after going to the show, if you're interested in doing that, you better sign up, because these spaces are limited. They're going to go very, very fast if they haven't already gone. So get on board with that. Get an opportunity to sell to people who want to buy your stuff. We're all going to this con to support one another. And that's one of the greatest things about the Multiverse Convention, is that it is a plethora of support networks. And it is just so amazing. And I say it every week. I say it every show. If this isn't the reason why you're not, if this doesn't convince you to not to go, then I don't know what will, but I'll have more opportunities to tell you why Multiverse is so awesome and why you should go as we continue this show. Speaking of which, coming this Friday is my first hour-long conversation of the year of this season of the Spotlight on the Multiverse, as I'm going to sit down with one of the sponsors, Kevin A. Davis, who runs Inked Publishing, and we're going to talk about what he's doing at Multiverse, what he enjoys about Multiverse, but more importantly, what he can give to you all and what he's got going on at Inked Publishing. So if you're looking to branch out and put more stories out into the world, if you've got things to say, Kevin may be the right fit for you to do that with. So I mean, you probably, if you're frequently watching the show, you've probably already seen a few of the things that he's offering. And we're going to talk a little bit more about all the things that Ink Publishing does. So definitely come and join us. That's going to be 10 p.m. Eastern on Friday. And that's going to be another great spotlight on the multiverse, as this one was. I thank Bob. I think Jessica. I think Chaotic Good Fitness. I think Vanessa and Jesse and Allison and Rob and everybody who just makes this opportunity for me so amazing. I'm just so grateful to give you all an insight to one of the favorite things I do all year long, and that is attend one of the best cons there is out there. And I hope that this helped you, convince you to do the same. And I hope to see you there in October. And remember that it's always time to go indie now. And we'll see you all on Friday with another show. We've got more stuff coming up on Go Indie Now all week long, too. So subscribe, hit the like button, do all those wonderful things you do for us. We really appreciate it.